All right. We are back. Level Up Grappling Podcast, number one grappling podcast in the world. And today we have a legend gracing our presence. So everybody better pay very close attention to what this legend has to say. The one and only Dan the Beast Severn is with us. Dan, welcome to the show. You know,
Gentlemen,
primarily I
it's
would
good to
say,
be here.
now, most of our audience is within the age group that would know who you are and revere your legacy. But for those in the
So,
younger age
are you trying
group
to say
that
that?
don't
Are you
know,
trying to say that you have a bunch of old farts that are listening in?
yeah,
Mhm,
pretty much. When
mhm,
you see our
exactly.
demographics, it's all like over 35. It's like 35 to 60 is our primary demographic, 99% men. But let's start from the beginning, because even though so many of us for years have watched your career, a lot of people, probably most, don't know your history, your martial arts history, and how you got into it. So let's start from the beginning. How did Dan Severn get into the martial arts, get into grappling, get into wrestling? Take us from the beginning and walk us through your history. Let's
Well,
start.
I'll give you. So I'll try to go with the Reader's Digest version the best I possibly can. But it all really started seventh grade. I jumped into. I started off because that's when athletics, the actual physical education programs existed at this time. You ask people about physical education now, they don't do nothing that is even remotely close to physicality. If they break a sweat, not going to happen. And the reason I know that is I actually have a teaching degree from Arizona State University, and I've worked at so many different schools as a substitute teacher, and of course I've been the gym teacher many occasions. And what is today's class? Nothing. It's really pretty sad, and they wonder why United States is number one in obesity. Oh, I wonder why. Well, first off, we supersize everything. The biggest sugary drinks and the biggest, sandwiches that aren't good for you, and the whole nine yards. But again, getting back to, I digress. What you asked, I started off in seventh grade. Simply, I was on the basketball team, and I wasn't good enough to actually dribble a ball and look away and still actually have the ball underneath my hand. So I was riding the pine, in other words, sitting on the bench. And it just happened that a couple of my friends that were on the wrestling team, a big flu epidemic had hit the school. A lot of people were out of school, and there were a number of people that were out on the wrestling team. They had a dual meet that night, and like, Dan, can you come on out and fill in a weight class? Otherwise, we'll have to forfeit. And am I thinking, okay, I'm a strong, young farm boy. Sure, I'll show them fellers there a thing or two about wrestling. I wrestled twice. I lost both matches. And I finished up my illustrious basketball career, but then the following year I signed up for wrestling, and there was. That was the spark that took off.
Was it something for you when you first got onto the wrestling mat? Was it love at first tie up, or did it take time for you to really
No,
embrace it?
I would say it wasn't. I progressively slowly got better, but I was really kind of like following the leader, like what are the other wrestlers and what are they doing? And I'm just trying to emulate them. It really wasn't until my ninth grade year. I'm in high school now. And the high school wrestling coach, because again, there was a junior high wrestling coach, a different gentleman. And then the high school wrestling coach, he was also the government teacher. So one day when I was turning in a paper, I'm walking up to his desk, I'm turning in his paper, and I see in the corner of his desk, he has these amateur wrestling news magazines. And I had never seen this magazine before. And I'm like, hey, coach, I go, do you care if I peruse through a few of these magazines? He goes, no problem. Just make sure they end up back on my desk. Gotcha. No problem. That's when it really opened up my eyes, because as I'm starting to read through these magazines, it talked about, dietary tips for how to lose weight properly to get down to a lighter weight class. It talked about setting of goals. It talked about the psychology of the sport. There were so many things that I had never thought about before. And I mean, that's where I tell people I set my very first goal. I wanted to be the first freshman at good old Hill McCloy High School in Montrose, Michigan, to make the varsity team. That was my very first goal. Wasn't real realistic at the time, but that was my goal.
And so, what was that like for that freshman year and then developing yourself over the next 4 years in high
Well,
school?
no, my freshman year was it was I provided a lot of comedy for spectators because the uh, the thought process amongst most wrestlers, I think, and grapplers in general, they try to lose weight because they want to be this monster at this later weight class.
Mhm.
But the psychological aspects, when you start losing weight, you start feeling a little pathetic, a little lightheaded. Is like when you don't feel very monstrous when you start losing this weight. So I mean, I went down to the 155-pound weight class and I challenged there, and I got beat. And then it's like, well, I challenged the next weight class up, and I got smoked even worse. Then I
Mm,
went up the next weight class and got smoked even worse yet, to where the last person or the last weight class to challenge was the heavyweight weight class. And this was an era where the heavyweight class was not regulated. You could weigh almost
mm,
anything. The person at Montrose Hill McCoy High School, I think, probably weighed, maybe 240 pounds, something like this.
mhm.
And you gotta realize, again, I'm weighing 155 pounds. The coach allowed the match to take place. And in the process that I'm tying up and we're moving around, somehow I stepped on his foot. He fell down. I fell down on top of him. I pinned him and I won my challenge match. So, I mean, it is.
Nice.
I always tell people my life is kind of like a Forrest Gump type of a storyline. I just somehow haphazardly, things have kind of fell in my direction, and but that opened up a whole new set of problems in that because in order to wrestle heavyweight, I had to weigh the minimum of 175 pounds. But this was a different era that you didn't have to weigh in buck naked or just in your underwear because the referees and doctors that are looking for ringworm and things of that nature on your body, it didn't really exist at that time. So I could weigh in fully dressed, and I did. I would weigh in fully clothed, my coat on, I would and my shoes on, and I'd have cans of pop in my pockets so that I weighed over the 175 pounds. And even the referee would be like, this kid doesn't weigh no 175 pounds. He's all doctored up. But the coach would be like, what does the rule book say? He goes, you sure about allowing this to happen? And because, like I said, I look like a midget compared to all of these other monsters, heavyweights. And I always tell people, I still remember, because I think it was scarred into my mind, my very first varsity match ever at heavyweight. I'm standing next to my coach. He's got his arms crossed. He's got his clipboard on his chest, arms are crossed, just like this. And my opponent is out on the mat. And the referee's out there, and the referee looks right at my coach. He goes, Coach, where is your heavyweight? I'm bouncing up and down like a little Mexican jumping bean because I saw all these other wrestlers bounce up and down. I go, well, maybe I should be doing this bouncing up down thing there too. And I'm bouncing up and down. Referee's having this conversation with coach. My coach simply does one of these numbers, points, just like this. And the referee goes from my coach, looks over at this little skeeter of the dude wearing a 155-pound uniform. He's like going, are you sure, coach? My coach just goes, hmm. That was it. There was no attaboy, go get him, slap on the back, shake a hand. It's like the sheep being led to slaughter. The match lasted like all of 15 seconds. By the time the referee started the match, my behemoth monstrous of an opponent comes across, crushes me, and basically I had to turn around just to drop down to his knees to throw a half in and to get the official pin.
Mhm.
So I tell people I didn't set the world on fire from the get go. And when I say I provided comedy, I had different farmers that were coming out of the bleachers after my match is done, and I mean, I'm a broken up tool that's just getting off the mat, and they're slapping me on the back, and and like going these old farmers going like, "Son, you're the funniest thing we've ever seen out there on that wrestle mat. You're so tiny, you look like a pimple on an elephant's ass," and they're saying stuff like that. And I'm thinking, I'm not certain exactly what a pimple on an elephant's ass looks like here, but I don't think that's a very good compliment that I'm getting here. So again, that's why I said that I didn't set the world on fire, and I had a losing record. I was 13 or 14 my very freshman year, but by my second year, I kept working out, developing, growing in, and then by my sophomore year and on, I was at a little bit more proper weight class, and that's when I started changing more and more. And I was
Is
going
it?
to summer camps, and I
Yeah.
was going to more and more spring and summer freestyle wrestling and Greco-Roman wrestling tournaments on top of doing folk style. The United States is the only country that does folk style and or collegiate wrestling, and that's one of the reasons why the United States does not do very well at the Olympic Games or at the World Championships because you'll be like 21 years of age by the time your only opportunity to represent the country is in freestyle Greco. Whereas every other country starts them right off from the get go. You're doing freestyle or Greco, and they start them at 5 years of age, doing all kinds of cool little games there with them to develop throwing ability in that. Whereas you can't, there's a lot of these throws that you can't do in folk style and or collegiate because it's just against the rules.
Yeah. Um, so as you're going through high school, what was your peak weight?
What the 185-pound weight class was my weight class.
That was your weight
I
class.
yeah,
Okay.
I kinda by my sophomore year on, I was at a 185-pound weight class. I didn't my sophomore year, I didn't really have to cut much weight for that, but, I mean, each year, I was putting on more size, as a farm kid. So growing up on a farm, you ate really well, and you had to do your chores. You had chores to do. My parents owned 120 acres and probably 40 of it was woods for stuff like that, and 80 acres of it was all tillable. So we're driving tractors, we're plowing, we're planting and harvesting. But you name the animal, we raise the animal as well. And you learn really quickly not to give them pet names because sooner or later they're going to end up on your table.
Mm.
So, and one of my jobs for 8 years was milking Peggy the milk cow. Which came, kind of a comical type thing because when you're the coming of age of a young male when you're in that junior high age and now you're getting the sex education type talk and stuff like that, and they talk about first base. First base is when you finally touch a female's boobie or something like that, and I'm hearing some of my friends say, "Yeah, I made it to first base." I'm thinking, huh, I've been at first base for like the last 7 years. Now, granted, she's got four nipples, but and her name's Peggy. But they just they started laughing about that. They're like, "Oh, well, that really doesn't count there." I go, oh, "Okay, all right, well."
So as you're competing in high school, did you have certain go-to moves that you focused
Well,
on?
I'll say
Takedowns, rides,
as
what were you
time
into?
developed more and more, I just got better in overall types of technique and that. But then as I kept continuing, I kept reading more and more of these amateur wrestling news, and especially talk about the psychological aspect. And that's when I mean, I pinned a few of my opponents, and when I got the pin, I saw how the crowd reacted to the pin. How and I mean, it's like that's like the exclamation mark of wrestling. If you want to go into the wacky world of professional wrestling, it's also the pinnacle of professional wrestling. If you get that old 3 count taking place, but it was I saw the reaction on that. So one of my goals was I wanted to see more and more how often can I pin my opponent? And so I again by sophomore year on, tables really changed a great deal to where I'm wrestling a lot more matches. During say a high school season, I might pick up 50 matches there, but in my spring, summer, part of fall, I might pick up another 100 plus matches. So by the time I'm actually a sophomore or a junior in high school, am I really a sophomore or junior in high school? When you look at the sheer mat experience of walking on that mat and just people got 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, a torso, and there's only so many different ways you can do it. But now I'm doing freestyle wrestling. I'm doing Greco-Roman wrestling. I'm mixing this into my folk style and my collegiate style of wrestling. And by the time I'm in college, well, I'll just say that my last 2 years of high school, I went 100-0.
Holy shit.
And I pinned everybody but one person in my junior year. So in my senior year, I pulled out my planner, and what is Dan Severn's goal? I must pin everyone. So now I go through my regular season, pin everyone, districts, pins, regionals, pins, states. I'm pinning. I'm getting ready to walk out for my final match. Again, nobody knows this goal, only me.
Mhm.
I'm walking out there. I'm going against a very formidable opponent. He's only been beat a couple times. And I don't think he was actually ever pinned.
Mm.
So, but for myself, Dan Severn, I went out there knowing that I had won the state title the year before. I had pinned my opponent just over 1 minute. So my goal walking out there was I must win, I must pin, I must do it all under 1 minute. Now, again, no one knew my goal, and my opponent didn't know it because he didn't realize the tsunami that was about to hit him. And within 45 seconds, I was walking back off the mat because I achieved my goal in 45
Wow.
seconds.
My God.
But again, that's my goals. And as I say to you right now, I still live out of a plan. I still have goals. And usually the only person that knows my goals is me because it doesn't matter to anyone else. I know what I want to do financially. I know what I want to do in athletics. I know how long I want to live longer. And now the quality of life, living around and just drooling down my chin, that's not living.
What
That's
was
like
your highest percentage takedowns in high school?
I was, I knew, uh, I give my high school wrestling coach a great deal of praise. As I stated earlier, he's no longer around. He passed away a number of years back. And for being a high school wrestling coach, he did not look like a coach at all. At say 5'5", 5'6", he weighed 350 pounds.
My goodness.
So he was built, and I explain like that because he's built like a butterball turkey. And I don't say that to be mean. I just want you to understand. Physically, he could not get out there to show you any techniques, but he recognized talent inside the room. So if you're the best double leg takedown, you taught the double leg takedown. If you're the best, fireman's carry type man, you taught that. He's like, "Oh, Severn, you went to camp. What'd you learn?" "Well, coach, I learned this thing called cradles." "Well, show us how to do cradles." And I simply knew that the more times that I had to get out there in front of people and I had to show physical mechanics, I had to understand and know those mechanics that much better. So literally by being, my coach forcing me to go out there and teach things, it got me better as an overall athlete. And again, it got me to the point towards like, and going to all these other camps and being around other great competitors and also coaches. That I mean, the hand fighting aspect is one of the biggest things when it comes to wrestling in general because you're always jockeying for positions. If you're doing gi work, you don't want people getting grips on your gi and things of that nature. As soon as they touch, it's like I go to Russian 2-on-1s and I don't even think I go in automatic pilot because I train to the point that even in the point of you're so tired that you're going into this phase of you don't even know where you're at, I go into autopilot because I've drilled so many moves thousands and thousands of times before. And I still say that most people. I go in and I change practices because I know that I know how the standard practice goes. They warm up, they stretch out, they warm up, and then they go into some light drilling, and then they start going into some hardcore wrestling. And that's when injuries start to take place in the hardcore wrestling, because now that's when you start getting tired. You have to take them only to a certain peak of that, and then you got to cut them off, and then you got to go back to drilling to where you know they're mentally tired, but I don't want to see them getting hurt. You can put them through running sprints and things of that nature at that point in time to keep that cardiovascular huffing and puffing stuff like that. But then you get them in back right back into, and you drill and drill and drill to where you no longer are thinking. You simply react and do. You're like a robot at that point.
So now walk us through how you got to college from high school. Did you get to college on scholarship, or how did you choose where you were going to go to school?
Well, again, yeah, I used my high school wrestling career was, by my sophomore year, I was on some college coaches' radar. They actually thought that my older brother and I, they thought that we were a set of twins. And it wasn't. I'm actually was a little over a year younger than my brother, and so it became an even more packageable type of deal. And so all I have four of the brothers. All five Severn males went to college on a full athletic scholarship for the sport of amateur wrestling. And the trickle down theory was the oldest brother achieved one, even though tough hombre, he achieved the first state title, and by time the youngest sibling, again, the oldest brother, my brother Dave, and youngest one was brother Rod, aka his legal name Rodney, but brother Rod was a three-time state champion. Again, because of the trickle down theory, there he was the youngest. So when my brother would went off to college or off onto different trips or tours, stuff like that, he came back and he brought back knowledge that I had never seen before, and he bestowed that upon me. So then when the two of us are going off and doing those type of things, we're bringing it back to the next sibling and then the next one until the youngest one was, like I said, um, three of us won two state titles, one brother wins one state title, and the last one wins three state titles. So it all equaled out to like two apiece on that, but it was the trickle down one, and there was probably more pressure on the youngest one because he was the last of the Severn legacy.
Yeah. So you get to college on scholarship, and walk us through that college wrestling career. I'm assuming you
Well,
had the
college
goal
was,
planner. You still had the goal
yeah, and I
planner
mean,
with you, right?
yeah, well, it was, well, again, my freshman. I'll say that things continued on my freshman year to where I was still that pinning machine. College is a whole different world compared to high school. College, it's like you don't really have to show up to class. You're in a class with a couple hundred other students. There's no one taking a role in this class. You're taking just general type of things. I mean, comically, I was actually on an international tour. I think, yeah, I was in Istanbul, Turkey, on I think that by the second day of students that are enrolling and doing their walkthrough and stuff like that. I'm still on a tour over in Istanbul, Turkey, with with one of my younger brothers. We fly back. We fly back to the state of Michigan. My father's there to pick us up. I'm home less than 24 hours. I'm home long enough to unpack one bag, repack the other bag, and I'm taken to the airport the following morning to fly into Phoenix, where I'm picked up by an ASU a university vehicle by the head coach, because this is like day three. There's only like 4 days of college registration and getting set on up to where they will me. This is an early morning flight. It's not, admissions is not even open up by that. They pick me up at the airport. They bring me back to Arizona State's campus. I'm in the coach's office. I'm bleary eyed. I'm looking around like because I should be asleep and I'm still awake. And within probably I'll say 45 minutes to an hour, all my classes they were just all picked out because they're like you're just a freshman. These are just the general subjects that you need to take. Within basically 1 hour, I've got all my classes are booked. They take me to the health center. I get my physical in, and then I'm taken back to my brother. My older brother takes me back to the apartment complex where he stayed at, and where I will be staying at. You had an option. You could either live on campus or off campus, and this was just slightly off campus. And it was, like I said, that was my first day. But then I swore I must have slept for like the next 24 hours because I was tired. I was exhausted. And I only wake up because I hear blaring music. And I walk out of my apartment room because again, I really don't know where I'm at yet because I'm not quite coherent here yet. To go from being in Istanbul, Turkey, wrestling against grown ass men. We weren't wrestling other age group junior, 18 years and younger. I'm going up against grown men at that point. And I've been hurt far worse in my amateur wrestling career than in anything else I've ever done. Period. Well, I should say professional wrestling. I've actually been hurt even worse yet, and that shouldn't happen. But that's a whole different story. But I hear all this blaring music. I go out and there's like we're in this apartment complex. I didn't get a real lay of the land when I came in because I'm blurry eyed and I just want to go to bed. And I go out there and there's like blaring music and you got scantily clad females and you got all these males trying to impress the females and are jumping off like the second balcony into the swimming pool and that. And they've got a keg of beer over here. And I'm thinking, wow, so this is college life, huh? So
That's funny. So I'm curious about something. You basically you developed yourself into a pinning machine.
yes.
And I think there's a lot of mechanics and aspects to pinning that is not explained to the general wrestler and the general grappler. So could you walk us through your mindset and how you set up your pins? What makes it so mechanically sound that you had this consistency in pinning?
Well, again, in my mindset, because as I stated a little earlier, and through my freshman year, the exact same thing happened where I went undefeated before a knee injury stopped me. And even in the knee injury, I had to beg my coach, a mat side physician, and the referee to allow me to continue on. Even though I could not bend my knee, I could not straighten out because it was locked into position. I had torn the cartilage, and in the process of me seeing it start to bulge out the side of my leg, I take my two thumbs, I press it, and I shove it right back in, locking it back in behind the kneecap there somehow. So
Jesus.
my leg was actually kind of locked in a semi-bent position. I couldn't stand up straight. I couldn't actually get a true crouch position. And they're like going, I'm begging, please, like I'm winning this match. And if you take me out right now, I forfeit, I lose. This could be in my mind, I'm thinking this could be the last match of my career. I don't wanna go out on this note. I begged and pleaded, and they even brought in a second referee. They consulted, like, going, "If okay, we're gonna let you go, but if you should get in another bad situation, I go, "We'll stop it." That's it. I go, "Okie dokie." 30 seconds later, I pin my opponent.
Jesus. All right, so
So,
walk me through your mechanics, your philosophy on pinning. Like if I'm sitting here
pinning
in the room with you on the mat, walk me through how you would teach me how to
Ryan,
pin successfully.
if you're okay, how I looked upon you in the first place is you're on my real estate. You are a trespasser on my real estate. I shall do everything within my power, legally within my power, but then I know how to mm, skirt some issues here just a little bit because it's like the crossface. Oh, I know how to put a crossface. Pretty mean, pretty wicked laid down. The bridge of nose I might have laying over on your cheek right there by the time I put that crossface in there. But knowing how to throw a wicked crossface and bring it right back into a chicken wing, throwing the 1-2 combinations, like you've been blurred this way, and then all of a sudden you realize, guys got you all cranked back into a chicken wing right now. Proper setups. I use all kinds of stuff that are no longer taught nowadays because I went to all these different wrestling camps and I learned from people that these moves were made after. Like, I loved the cradles. Who did I learn the cradles from? You got the gosh, I got his face in my mind right now, and I'm drawing a blank onto him right now, but he was he was one of the biggest pin masters ever by just using the cradles, and I learned them directly from the king. And so it's like even, it's like, the Anderson Bar series. I learned it from Dale Anderson himself. So it was like when I learned these things, like, from the people that invented these moves. But then I was on mats with Olympians, Olympic champions, Olympic silver medalists, world champions. I walked on these mats with these same men, and they learned to respect the work ethic that I had. 'Cause I didn't cut them any breaks on things. I'm testing your metal. You're the best. I wanna try to become the best.
Yeah.
But like I said, I look at that first off, you're on my piece of real estate. I'm gonna do everything within my power to take you off that. But then knowing how to use I knew how to manipulate the referees because I simply knew that if I keep that center of that mat to my back and I keep running you out of bounds by attacking, the referees are going to be on you all day long for you're being passive, you're evading you're invading the mat, and they'll be calling you for stalling in that. So where now you're going to be taking risk and chance that you're uncomfortable with because that my whole aspect was how uncomfortable can I make your life on that mat? And then you can start to do things that you would not ordinarily do. And somewhere along there, you're going to create that one opportunity. And I'm going to capitalize on that. I always say you only get one chance. And that's why I ended matches with pins. But then also the crowd went crazy for pins. I saw that and I'm thinking, well, why aren't more wrestlers doing this? Because when I watch college wrestling today, oh my god. I'm like, I'm screaming when I'm watching because it bores me to tears. I'm like, "Whoop-de-doo dah." They gave an extra point for the takedown, 3 points. Whoop-de-doo dah. Get throw some more points on the pin so
Yeah.
that more people wanna go for the pin. They just wanna eke out this little 3 to 4, 5 to 3. Woo, riding time. Whoa. Yeah. I don't care about that. Ultimatum is like when you pin someone, you own their soul
Yes.
because you did something to them. Because if you only beat me by a couple points, in my back of my mind, I think you only beat me by a couple points. I can maybe my cardiovascular was a little bit of issue. Maybe I guess you got to do a little bit more drilling. The pin, nah, that's a whole different ball game. I went to a tournament because I started having this this reputation as being a vicious pinner to where I started waiting towards the end of the weigh-ins to step on a scale. And again, going 3 different weight classes, either 198, 220, or heavy.
Mm.
I was also a hardware collector. So if there's a most pins award, well, where am I gonna get more matches at? The weight class that really gets the most matches is the right around that 155 to 158-pound weight class. It's right in the middle. There and again, when you're a champion there, you are somebody because people will lose weight to come down to you, or they'll put weight on to come up to you. So again, when you're in the middle there and you're a champion, especially if you're a champion over a couple different weight classes, oh, you're somebody special because you got some real capabilities. But I would say the easiest weight class, the very lightest and the very heaviest, because I was
Mm.
there with the very heaviest. There's just not as many people that are gonna be there, and I would bounce between 198, 220 heavyweight. And like I said, just to get all the college coaches and stuff like that, I went three different weight classes, 2 different age groups, 17 matches in 1 day. And I had the world of talking and scholarships to any college I wanted to go to.
That's crazy. So after college, what is your determination from there? Because, you're not even, maybe a little bit more today, we have other opportunities for grappling. What are you thinking? What's your mindset in terms of I'm this
Well,
master
I'm still
wrestler. What do I do now?
yeah. It's still in the back of my mind. I want to make some Pan American teams. I still wanna make some world teams. I still wanna make an Olympic team. So those are my driving force. I've done the state level stuff. I've done the national level type stuff. It's kinda going now I'm looking for bigger goals, higher goals to go after. And so one of those things trying to make an Olympic team in that. And, I was an assistant wrestling coach at Arizona State underneath the tutelage of Bobby Douglas, incredible technician, just incredible competitor himself. There really should be more books, and there should be actually a movie that depicts his life and the stuff that he had to go through. Because I mean, he was the first black head coach of any program. And as his assistant, I witnessed some things that I think, "Oh my god." I go, "This man could really destroy you, but he's gonna be kind and just let you say some of the ugly things that you're saying because he just knows that you're just an ignorant human being." So, and that going so I even had more respect to learn, how he had to be very humble at different times. So there was, but Bob Douglas has passed on now. He just passed away literally within the last, I think, 4 months, 3 or 4 months. He
Yeah, it
just
was
passed
very
away.
recent. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it was, again, it's kind of just the sad things. Like same thing with my high school coach. I mean, they're all gone, and even like the other parts of my tutelage, like both parents are gone now. So it's the herd's thinning on out. But no, I mean, it's still when you go back to like my next tier of competition for what you're going here with, on the agenda there is like my next thing would be in like the Ultimate Fighting Championship, but I did not. My very first profession was professional wrestling as of the 1992 Olympics. A new rule came down that athletes could be both amateur and professional simultaneously. So I first started pursuing professional wrestling in 1992. It didn't even exist. UFC didn't exist until December 1993 was the first one, but even then, the internet era was
Mhm.
there was not
Non-existent.
yeah.
There's nothing.
It's like I hold up the cell phone. I've got several other cell phones that look like the little block or walkie-talkie and stuff like that because it was the first evolutions of cell phones. But, you talk to young people nowadays, I mean, I hate to say this, but most American youth are pretty stupid, pretty darn stupid about our history. I
Yeah,
mean, downright stupid about our history, and that's where I look at what is our education system even teaching anymore? You gotta understand your history, otherwise you're gonna repeat it.
absolutely. So
And you're talking to someone who actually has a teaching degree from Arizona State University, and I've done a lot of substitute teaching, never had any problems with any of my students. But at the same token, when they found out, who I was and what I did, that's when it was game on because I first went in there, I basically just wrote my name up on the, chalkboard, Mr. Severn, and and I'm like, as soon as all the class all sit down, and again, all the young bucks when they're coming in, they're seeing a sub. So they're like knuckle bumping each other, like going, what are we going to do today? We're going to get a handout. We're going to read a little chapter and we're going to screw around the rest of the 45 minutes in this class. And but I'm like, how do I take control of this class? And I'm thinking, I'm going to find out who can read here first. So I would start right down one row down the first person, read the first paragraph, then the next person read the next paragraph. And I've got the little, uh, list of students that are supposed to be in the class, and I make a little check box as to who can read and who cannot read. And so when class would be coming to an end, I'd be like, "Hey, Jim, Mark, Kurt, and you see guys, I need to see you guys after class." And I'm talking to them because I'm not going to embarrass them in front of their other students, but I'm going to talk to them. You guys need help, and you better learn how to read. I go, I get you some help through your English teacher. I said, "You need to start getting some books out of the library and not just looking at the sports magazines because, yeah, you can read a picture, but you can't read the words that go with that picture." And so I go, you got to just find stuff that intrigues you and interests you. So I was really big about trying to do that. But then the students would loved it because the standard lesson plan for substitute teacher was read this chapter and then I give them a little handout and then they fill in the different Q&A type of things. And for like the next 45, 50 minutes, I sit there like a bump in a log. But what
Mhm.
I was doing was, again, like I said earlier, you read the first paragraph, the person behind you reads the next paragraph. So I knew who can read, who cannot read. But then when it comes to answering the questions, I made it aloud towards like going, okay, who was the first president of the United States? And, one of the students raised a hand. And I go, who was it there, Jim? And they're like, well, it was George Washington. I go, no, it wasn't. It's Abraham Lincoln. And like the first time I did this, they're looking at me, they're looking at each other and they're afraid to even raise their hand. I go, well, what's wrong? You seem to be upset with what I said. And then the brave hand raises. They're like, well, Mr. Severn, you're wrong. I go, but why am I wrong? Because then they say he was the 16th president, and I go, guess what? You're correct. I go, you guys are so brainwashed that you're not willing to challenge an adult's authority. You have
Mm.
got to get over that. I go, everything needs to be challenged at different times because is it really sound advice I'm giving you or not? And so they loved it when I was a sub because they simply knew game on with Mr. Shepard because what's going to come out of his mouth? Is he going to be leading us this way or is it going to be leading us that way? But the first time I ever heard that, I made them think.
Mm.
So I had a lot of fun with that. But then that's even the way I ran my training facility.
Mm.
There's a lot of dumb jocks out there, and that's why I told myself, I said, I'm not here to produce a bunch of dumb jocks. I'm here to produce people that want to win and be successful.
Well, I
Yeah,
think even
absolutely. It's
in one of our conversations, Dan, on the phone, you talked about teaching them to cook. Yeah, teaching the athletes at your
Well,
training center to cook.
yeah, well, in my training facility, I had 2 small dormitories, 9 bunk beds on one side, 9 bunk beds on this side. I had a commercial kitchen inside my place. And I had this big, massive stove that had 10 burners on it, two ovens. And as you're coming in, I'm like, Brian, do you know how to cook? Adam, do you know how to cook? And like, well, sure I do. I go, what do you know how to cook? So I put, okay, they said you could cook, but can you make toast? Something like that. But it's like going, there were so many of these guys I had to teach how to make scrambled eggs. You want to take it to protein. Eggs are good for you. Boiled eggs are good for you. How to do this, how to do that, and then, but then I had a list of rules posted right up on the wall inside their dormitory that they had to make their beds in the morning and they had to clean up their area and they're like, well, why? I go, well, first off, they're slob. Okay. And I go, I don't want any slobs living here in my dormitory because I don't want anyone, because if you're a slob and you got food, stuff like that, that's going to bring in ants and other type of stuff. So no, you're going to have your area's going to be stowed. It's going to be clean and you don't keep, because you don't even have to listen to me. I go, it's on the list on the wall as to what you're allowed to have and not allowed to have. And there was like other times like going, if you need a drink that bad, go to the bar, drink someplace else. Not at my place. You don't bring it into my place at all. I go and even in my cafeteria, I had these block of a station of 4 where 4 people could sit at each table, and I had like 8 of these tables along the wall. But I had a block of electrical outlets put down there because I wanted to know that there was a desk lamp at each table, so that if you're working or had to do something and you're not in the dorm, you're in the cafeteria area, but you don't have every overhead floodlight on. You just have your little desk lamp there. And you're doing your work and you got your laptop or something with you and you're working on whatever it is you're working on or reading and I was really big about I was really big about education and knowing that you need to do something with your career. Becoming a professional wrestler, becoming a cage fighter, those aren't careers.
Mhm.
Those are something that you're only going to be able to do for a certain portion of your life, and you better surround yourself with some decent people that know how to advise you because if you win some money, are you going to know how to invest it? Because it doesn't matter how much money you win. The tax man eventually is going to come around and simply say, "Where's our little booty here right now? You got to give some of that state tax. There's going to be some federal taxes on different things." So I would bring in my financial counselors, and I had a couple of them, and they knew about each other because I wanted them to know. Because if you're going to be my financial advisor, you better be advising me about the best stuff. Because I might to be asking the other guy, "Well, what do you think about what do you think about his advice to me?" So I played one against the other, knowing that, and they knew about it. And I told them, they said, "I'm gonna let them both know about," even though they never knew each other professionally. I still use that because it's kind of like going, I don't know if they know each other. I'm assuming they don't because they're in two different parts of the state, different. So
Yeah, that's very important. So how did the UFC come on your radar?
a lady by the name of Phyllis Lee. 'Cause, I mean, she was standing in my corner in my one of my very first UFCs ever. Everybody thought that she was my mother because, again, elderly woman, and she was someone from the professional wrestling world, and she was she made so many phone calls to Art Davie, one of the owners of the Ultimate Fighting Championship in the very beginning. He was the businessman and the gentleman that came up with this whole conceptual idea of this cage in the whole 9 yards. He just happened to hear about, the Gracie Challenge and Jorge and Gracie and basically formed a partnership with him, and that's how the Gracies got involved in the Ultimate Fighting Championships from the get-go. But, it was Art Davie, and I should say Phyllis Lee, because I mean, even Art, because Art Davie's still alive. Art Davie would even say today that probably Phyllis's voice probably still haunts him because she made so many phone calls to his office that he finally came out to a professional wrestling match to watch me doing my match, and at the time, I think I was wrestling one of the Legion of Doom, individuals there.
Talking
I think
animal. Love
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah, with that, yeah, but they were so far ahead of their time frame even, with the face paint and that,
Mhm.
and the music and the shoulder pads with the spikes on them. But, yeah, our Davey, when he first meets me, he's like going, he goes, "Well, what's your professional fight record?" "Well, I don't have one of those." "Well, what's your amateur fight record?" "Well, I don't have one of those." He goes, "Well, what are your skill sets?" Because now he's angry at Phyllis because she's been blowing up his phone, and now he's getting angry at me because I have no fight skills. I go, "Well, Mr. Davey, I may not have the kind of skills that you might be looking for inside that octagon cage." I said, "But," I go, "my international, wrestling career will speak for itself." I go, "I've done Greco-Roman and freestyle against some of the best people in the world." And I go, "You'd be shocked at, how many other countries dislike the United States. And when they have an American out there, 2 out of 3 of those referees are gonna be looking the other way while the opponent is doing something to me." I've been head butted, I've been had hair ripped out of my head, just it's to where it just it's unbelievable. But, it's, like I said, and I understood what I was up against when I walked in. So, but Mr. Davey, he gave me a chance.
Because I look at it like you were really at the forefront of wrestlers coming to the UFC because I know it's pretty well documented they didn't want wrestlers in UFC
Well, it
one.
was I was actually what they say was I was the first world class wrestler ever to really
Yeah,
walk into the octagon. The only other grappler at that point that was actually the Gracies themselves.
yeah. So it
And they
walk us.
actually at that point in time, they even showed the opponent when they put your name up there, you fell into either the category of being a grappler or a striker. So there was a lot of boxers, kickboxers, Muay Thai, karate, kung fu, and it would always be striker, striker, striker. Then there would be the judo, jujitsu, wrestler, or whatever that would be, the
Mhm.
grappler.
So walk me through that match with Hoist Gracie because I was watching. I was like, "There's no way Hoist Gracie is going to survive Dan Severn." You look at it, your wrestling pedigree. I remember watching. See, I always say this: I was not impressed with the first couple of UFCs because I grew up in Southern California. Uh, I I was very active doing kickboxing. And I had trained Dutch style kickboxing, so it was much more violent and more boxing heavy. So I wasn't point fighting, I was fighting. Then I got into the pancration stuff before they were allowing anything else. So I knew guys, very tough guys and tough shoot wrestlers. And I was just like, why aren't they
Mhm.
letting any of these guys in? So by the time UFC rolled around, I was just like, Dan Severn's just going to kill everybody. And then, there's this match with Hoist Gracie. And I'm like, what was that experience like for you? Was there an assumption that you would have an advantage because he was wearing a gi? Did you think that, say, a submission at the time would work on you, wouldn't work on you? I'm not sure what your familiarity was with submissions, ground submissions at that time. So walk us through that whole scene.
Well, I mean, it was the longest time ever recorded at that time in UFC
Mhm.
number 4. What I was told afterwards was that, the producers of it were looking at because it was a pay-per-view. They only had so much time was allotted, and they were running out of time. Because the average match during that no holds barred era was 2 minutes, 22 seconds. A rather violent 2 minute and 22 seconds. And here we go, just shy of 16 minutes. And it was not exactly what I call wasn't a very violent match or whatsoever. Um, Actually quite a nice match. So I tell people, because they saw me tap, they say, well, you tapped. I go, well, yes, I did. And they're like, well, you tapped because Hoist beat you with the triangle choke. I go, if that's what you think. And they say, but you tapped. I go, well, yes, I did. But okay, then why did you tap? I go, I go, let me ask you a question. I go, did I tap because someone beat me, or did I tap because I was unwilling to do what I had to do to another human being? I know what went down because I was there. And then as I learned more and more about the Gracie family, and that is kind of going, I would like to get a rematch if I possibly could. And I even heard that there was supposed to be, as of recently, there was supposed to be a throwback from days gone by where Chemo Leopolo and Hoist Gracie were going to be doing another match. I go, really now? How does one get the winner of those two, or how does one get? Oh, forget the winner. How about if I give a good old Kmart 2-for-1 special tonight?
Unfortunately, that didn't happen because it would have
'Cause
been good to
I
see.
again, gentlemen, I know my capabilities. And when I did win UFC number 5, I only did 2 training camps ever in my UFC career. Once for 32 days and once for 35 days. And I set 2 different records. For one, I finished off 3 men in the shortest amount of time they had ever seen. And the second one, longest time ever, was inside the octagon cage, just over 1 hour. Denver, Colorado, mile high elevation.
Yeah, crazy.
But my cardiovascular was off the charts.
It'd have to be.
So again, I know what my capabilities are.
So
Not many do. And I know
yeah,
how to push people on those
s-
parameters, and I know how to take people into deep water.
so I want to push on you a little bit here because I know there's more to this story. When you're saying
Push away, Brian, push
at,
away.
at UFC 4, you were unwilling to do to a human being.
Yeah. UFC no, but UFC 5, is when I cut loose, and that's
Right.
when Jim Brown gave me the ring name slash the cage name, the Beast,
Right.
because he could not believe the transformation. Because I
What?
would tell people even when I went to the UFC in the very beginning,
Uh,
I had already worked for 2 different universities. So showing up to a UFC press conference, I wore a sports jacket, a tie, and I'm wearing my glasses. I could see up close, but I wear glasses for distance. Everybody thought I was somebody's manager. And when the UFC officials finally said, we need all the fighters to the front desk because they have to have 8 fighters up there, and then everyone else is out there, and they're going to be asking some questions. And then when they saw, because I had Al Snow, aka Al Sarvin, the professional wrestling
mhm.
trainer, was with me. Everybody thought he was the fighter because he's wearing a tank top. He's tattooed up, stuff like that. And then I'm wearing a sports jacket and a tie. So everyone thought I was a manager. He's the fighter. And then when they saw Al sitting out there and they see me up, they're like going, they don't know who's this guy and who was that guy. So
So when you're at UFC 4, you're in the
mhm.
cage with Hoist. He's got a gi on. What was that experience like? Give me that. Uh,
Well,
give
yeah,
me that
I don't look.
perspective.
I didn't look at the gi as did he have an advantage or a disadvantage? Because I could grab a hold of it just as much as anyone else did. Because I mean, a lot of people don't understand. I actually have a judo background. My freshman year in college, I actually took a judo class. But
Mhm.
again, well, if you look at it, my freshman year, I took one of my very first semesters, I took a judo class, and I took a weightlifting class. And the weightlifting class was so I could design programs, knowing I would ultimately I'm looking for how to design programs for me to become the ultimate wrestler and
Mhm.
how to design and it was all the gentleman that was actually leading the class. He was a football coach, so it was all geared towards football. I simply knew how to rewire it all for the sport of amateur wrestling and what kind of strength do you need to have for like lat pull downs, seated pulls, because he's implement doing cradles and that and or singles and or doubles. So again, there's just I knew how to simply just think in my mind, okay, the mechanical movements and what kind of mechanics does this relate to now in the gymnasium.
Mhm.
So even now and today, you'd be impressed if you saw me in the weight room as the amount of weight that I push around. Maybe not okay, and not only just the amount, but for how many repetitions I would do it.
Mm.
Because I do everything with a bare bones minimum of 25 reps. That's my
Wow.
starting set. That's my starting set. I take a 45-pound plate as part of my warm up. I stretch and stuff like this. I'll grab a 45-pound plate, keep my arms at a right angle, and I would do torso twists, the full extension of what my torso will go for 101 reps. I guarantee you that there's not another man right now that can do 100 torso twist reps. I can.
Wow.
I can't.
And I know the
I can't
burning
do that.
and I know the burning sensation that will be in my arms.
Mhm.
And it's kind of going, yeah, the pain it'll soon subside.
What did
Mindset.
Hoist feel like? Yeah, it is mindset. It's iron mindset.
No,
But I'm
it
curious.
is,
What?
but that's where I've worked for myself for so many years that I used to be only person I'm in competition with anymore is myself.
Right.
As I showed before, I live out of a planner. I like the life I've carved out. I get to travel all over the United States. I do uh, either speaking engagements, Q&A. They throw up some professional wrestling matches. They'll throw up some MMA matches, and then like, what would your mind go to here? What would your mind go to there? It's easy for me to think about those and do it, and then but then also reflect on back as you gentlemen asked me different questions about what was my mindset in my junior high. I know exactly what it was.
That's incredible.
I say again, as I say before, I've got so many goals still, even now as a senior citizen Dan, and I'm doing what I can. I still got goals. Still got goals. And I use comedy because people can accept comedy a whole lot more than rubbing their face into the cow pie of reality.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. But so tell me what I want to know. I'm sure a lot of people want to know, what did Hoist feel like in that UFC 4? I mean,
Again, a good competitor. Don't good competitor. But again,
it's just
did I do a single hammer fist straight down center
no.
of his face? Again, that's what I said. I know what my capabilities are, and I know at the time I go, and again, did I tap? Sure, I tapped. I was a little bit. I probably a little bit more mad. I looked at my paycheck and I realized, gosh, I didn't make very much money off of this whole deal here right now. And I'm thinking, okay, I can do this. And that's when I went back and I took a little bit more time out and I prepared a little more properly for UFC number 5.
Mhm.
And like I said, I was trying to get one more match with a Ken Shamrock, a Mark Coleman, a Hoist Gracie. Drug test us both to let them know that Dan Severn will finish out his career drug free.
Yeah, because
And I would probably be made a couple different 2-for-1 specials for you. Because once again, I know my capabilities.
Did you watch pro wrestling when you were a kid?
Very, very little of it. We you gotta realize I was still watching black and white, and I still remember when color television first came in. So a lot of people are go, "Damn, how old is this guy here right now? Color television, black and white?" Oh yeah, no, and it was you had the rabbit ears on top
Yeah,
of
oh,
the
yeah.
television there that you had to put some aluminum foil onto it to get to be able to get in basically the 3 channels that you're able to watch. We simply knew my father loved to watch football.
Okay.
So there were days where it was like going, my brothers and I were thinking, how do we gotta get Pops in the living room and we need to get him into a prone position on the floor. And then we got a chance that we'll get out of work for a couple hours. So we would be in there, we'd be trying to twist the old rabbit ears around, find a football game or something like that on there. Then as we're there, we're making it sound like it's bigger than the game that's happened. My dad would come on in, he'd sit down on the couch for a moment. Next thing you know, he's laying down on the floor, he's got his feet on up, and next thing you know, he's asleep. And we're like, but all it would do was it bought us a couple hour freedom. And my dad's, we still had to go out and still do the work. It's like
Mm.
doing your chores. As I said early on, we had all the crops and animals. You had to feed the animals twice a day. My father would say, "Son, do you like to eat?" And I said, "Well, yeah, Dad." He said, "So do the animals twice a day. Once in the morning when you get up before you go to school, and then once again when you come back home from school. No matter how late it is, you come home from school. You still got to get your chores done because, Peggy the milk cow, she'll be out there bellowing because her bag of milk is full. She's in pain. I still got to go out there and, take care of Peggy."
So for me, I mean, I've got a
And
question
winter
for you,
and
Dan.
winter time is a whole lot harder too because now
Mhm.
you're out there in the cold. And we're not filling up buckets of water from a spigot on the back of the house. You're walking down this little hill, barns up on the hill. You walk down the little hill and you go to the creek. There's a little creek right there, and it's wintertime. Well, up by up on the riverbank, there's a metal bar that you have to use that you have to spud a hole through the ice. It's going to freeze overnight because you're going to water them in the morning. And through the course of the next 7, 8 hours that you're at school and you're at your athletics, it's going to freeze back over again. So you got to then respud it again. But it won't be as thick as, ice that's been, it might be 4 or 5 inches thick, the other ice. But this will be, maybe a half inch to an inch by that time. So it's a little bit easier. And then you have to carry these buckets up there. It's either 2 trips, 5 buckets a piece, or you carry 4 5-gallon buckets at once. I like making one trip, 4 5-gallon buckets at once. But as you're walking up the hill, especially come springtime, where things are starting to get a little muddy and stuff like that, and you realize by the soaking sensation that you feel on your right foot, you lost your boot 2 or 3 steps back. But do you stop now and set the buckets on the hillside, and they're going to tip over and run out? No, you keep trekking up that hill, walking through manure and everything else, knowing that you're going to walk back down the hill, and you're going to stick your foot into ice cold water because you're going to wash off the cow pie that's sticking on the bottom of your foot.
Mm.
So again, it just goes to show you, it's there's a big difference between a farm boy lifestyle and a city kid. But you also saw the development. You could simply see these city kids, and they almost look like they were dwarfed because they're not eating all the nutrition that you are eating, because you're drinking real milk. It's got this cream coating there to it. My mother used to show us how she did it. We would skim. You bring the milk in, you run it through a cheesecloth the first time just to make sure all the impurities were taken out of it. But then after you let that milk sit for just a couple hours, the big thick, it'd be a couple inches thick of cream at the top that you scrape off the ladle, that you could turn into butter. So I always tell people, we ate real meat, we ate real butter, we drank real milk. It's all my siblings, my older brothers, all these men that are 6 foot of height or better, 200 pounds or better. Oh, even my
Your
sisters
nutrition
were
matters.
at 6 feet and close to 200 pounds. A high school wrestling coach tried to get a couple of them to come out for the rest of the team, but that was way before the girls wrestling ever came into play.
Mm. Adam, what was your question?
I
For
was just
Dan?
going to ask Dan, but out of the MMA side of stuff, who was the technically toughest opponent? Technically toughest for you?
Well, for me, it would be another grappler, because only doing those couple of training camps that I ever did, if you had a good grappling background, that would negate a lot of my ability. So then now we got to look at the secondary skills. It was,
Mhm.
I always say that in UFC 5, I opened up a whole different animal. My 3 most reliable workout partners was a heavy bag, a throwing dummy, and a wall-mounted takedown machine. This wall-mounted takedown machine is still around. It was designed by Carl Adams. I don't even know if Carl Adams is still around or not. He used to be a coach at Boston University, but Boston hasn't had a wrestling program in, a couple of decades. But he designed this wrestling takedown machine, but I use it in ways it was probably never designed for. But the 3 dummy, again, the wall-mounted dummy, the heavy bag, and the throwing dummy, I did things to those 3 workout partners that I hoped I never had to do to a live human being. It's like headbutts. Brian, how do you
Mhm.
how do you train headbutts? You say, "Hey, Adam, come on over here. How does this feel?" You don't do it with another live person right there. You don't. But again, in theory, it was like, okay, you don't want to hit hard, thin type skin type areas. You want to hit harder type of things, and you want to hit them across eyebrows, hit the nose, hit around the eye passages, because these 2 C's right here, these are cut areas that you could cut anything in this type of area. Wrestlers, I mean, I think one of the jokes was, if you ever see a guy that's got cauliflower ears at the bar, don't mess with him. They've got some skills. But again, I always tell people that I don't have cauliflower ears because I always wore headgear. Even in international competition where you don't have to, I wore headgear because I didn't want one of those big gnarly looking ears. I want to know that when my career came to an end, I don't want to be going to my grandkids and my grandkids going, "Golly there, Grandpa, what's that on the side of your head there?" Well, that's called an ear, son. That's been cauliflowered a dozen times over. Yeah.
So were there individuals specifically that you in MMA that you were like, okay, this guy's a tough challenge?
Oh, well, again, I would simply say that, anyone that came out there with the more Mark Coleman, Ken Shamrock, even throw the Hoist Gracie right back in there. Again, people that had those stronger, grappling backgrounds, because that would negate some of my ability. I don't think they had as extensive of a background, but then I always tell people, like, my gi work, I took a judo class at Arizona State.
Mhm,
So again, that's why I tell people I took a judo class and I had two instructors, an Asian instructor and an American instructor. Asian instructor did not like me at all because I did not conform to the judokian way of doing things.
mhm.
Even though I'm acing the test, I can wax everybody inside the class. I had to plead to the American guy. I'm thinking, and he basically gets me to pass the grade, but then he's the one that's like, and when my amateur season came to an end, he's like, Dan, he goes, how'd you like to go and watch a judo tournament? And I'm like going, oh, cool. What do I got to do? Jump in this van. Jumped in the van, rode on down to a couple hours away to go watch a judo tournament. And then it's like, well, now that you're here, how would you like to do a judo competition? I go, I don't have a gi. Ta-da. It was a setup. It was a setup. But then, I mean, I look like the biggest hillbilly barbarian in the world because I was not educated on all the different of a judo tournament. The fact that before you walk on the mat, you're supposed to bow to the mat. You're supposed to bow to this judge over here. You have to bow to that judge over here. Then you have to bow to the head judge. And then the head judge, he says, Haji Bay. And I'm like, Haji who? Oh, he's coming towards me. I well, I guess it's time to get it on here now. I just look like a wild hillbilly out there, and the moment he touched, it was no longer think, because I went right back to Russian 2-on-1s. I went right back to lateral drops. I went back at the singles, doubles. Again, two arms, two legs, a head, a torso. And I'm launching people, and I've got more handles because if they war geese, I'm just throwing things. And I end up winning like half a dozen different tournaments before they stop the tournament. There's a Japanese word for it, I don't remember what, but where they stopped the tournament, they took me to the front, they took my white belt, gave me a brown belt. Then another half a dozen tournaments later, they take my brown belt, they give me a black belt. And, it's where I'm going, okay, cool. I leave Arizona, I take a job at Michigan State, I find out about an all black belt tournament. I go I go to compete in the all black belt tournament. So as I'm filling out the registration form, they're like, well, what belt are you? I go, black belt. And they're like, "No, what belt are you?" I go, "Black belt." They're looking for what level, knee down, she down, what, and I'm like going, "I don't know." I go, and they're like, "Well, how'd you get your black belt?" Again, it was given to me. Now they think I'm just some wackadoo. And the tournament director should be he goes, "I tell you what," he goes, "I'm gonna mark your belt sheet. I'll be there at your first match because I don't want to see you get hurt." I go, "Okie dokie." So he was at my first match. I went against the returning champion. 30 seconds later, I was walking off the mat, and that was it.
No,
He's like, he wrote me up a certificate. He goes, "Here, take this with you." And I'm like, that's in one of my archives there somewhere. In one of my scrapbooks, there's that piece of paper. Because I simply knew that somewhere down the road, someone was going to either challenge something or someone's going to want to write a book or something like that because I've done an awful lot of unique things over the course of my life. And I want to have the archives. I've got probably 50, 60 scrapbooks. And then, from there, when I no longer put it into scrapbooks, I've got boxes that it's like an archaeological dig. It's like going, I don't have no time because I like what I do. I'll just keep on
mm,
doing it. So somebody will eventually come on over and I'll probably pull out the boxes and it'll get done some at some point.
No doubt.
that's really cool. Okay, so I have a question. If you are gonna, let's say you're gonna build, from the ground up, a submission wrestler, because we gotta, especially nowadays, with all these different styles, everybody's bringing submissions together, and they're- things are getting merged. how would you build a newbie submission wrestler from the ground up? What would you
Mm,
focus on?
you know, I mean, I think that's real. It's a real interesting question, and I'd have to give that a lot more thought. Be just the shoot something either off to you. It might be half baked. I really have not been asked a question like that. How would I build? I mean, I know, like for example, I have grandchildren.
Mhm.
I happen to have 5 of those grandchildren, and my kids already see the type of physical play I'm playing with them. But they want to do this when they see that grandpa is there.
Mhm.
They want to run out because they want to play with grandpa. Because I'm engaging them in all kinds of bear crawls, army crawls. I'm actually I got these little pieces of white tape down there to where they're gonna be standing on their heads, and they're doing hula hooping. Yes, grandpa can hula hoop. So, okay, so, yeah, I do all these different types of things there with them, and these balloon drills and things of nature, and my kids are like, "What are you up to, pops?" I go, "I'm making memories with my grandchildren." I go, stuff that they'll think about later in life that, gosh, their grandpa didn't just sit around watching the boob tube with them or whatever. Grandpa was out there doing this, doing that. And I go, yeah, you're right. Your diabolical dad is building the alpha male and alpha female of the future. Because while the rest of them simply know how to operate this, and they got the fastest thumbs in the world, your sons and daughters will be tying them into knots doing other stuff, whatever that sport is, because they're learning fine motor skills, gross motor skills, hand-eye coordination, and they're doing physicality where their peers are not. And I go,
Mm.
in 18 years from now, I might save you about $250,000 on a college education. So what do you got to say to your pops now? Like, they're all yours, pops. They're all yours. Because again,
So what we let's break down, let's kind of walk through this together. In terms of we're building the prototypical submission wrestler. They need a certain skill set. They need certain takedowns. What would be the most consistent takedowns getting somebody to the mat that you would want them to learn first? Let's start from the top down. So if we're looking at takedowns, what would be, let's just pick three. Three, how do we get the guy to the mat? So what would be your top three of what you would want somebody to learn first?
well, again,
Let's say it's
I
an
just
18 and up.
no, okay, just from the amateur perspective, what you start off with what's known as point of contact. So point of contact is is someone going to reach out? The point of contact, because someone could reach out and they could grab you by the wrist. They could do a shoulder pulse. They could reach up, do what's known as a collar tie. These are all known as what point of contact. You must always control point of contact. Never allow anyone to have point of contact control on you. So the moment they reach up like with a collar tie, I don't even think it. I automatically go Russian 2-on-1. Boom. I bring it right down to a Russian 2-on-1. But then I go, because I've done it so many times, I do it in such a forceful type manner. I will pop it on down. So as they start to pull right on back, I let it pull right back in to where I will fire right into like a high crotch fireman's carry or something like that. I've learned how to I do it in a one-step formation, but then I add a second step or a third step to it. But you have to baby step most athletes. You have to take them through one step before you can throw them into a two-step kind of combination. Controlling that point of contact. If they reach out, grab your wrist. Simply going, you grab my wrist. I simply, I. It's like almost like you're shaking hands with my wrist. I will pull it right across my waist. I will grab your wrist as I pull right on, and I go right again. I go right back up into a Russian 2-on-1. I just know how to take. No matter what you do right now, I know already I can be 2 steps ahead of you. Only because I've drilled it so many times before. I don't want to just be a drill to be a one and done. I drill for all types of how to manipulate you, how to continue to control you, and even at the whole time, I simply know as I reach up and I hit, my fingertips will be hitting the back of your shoulder to where I start to bring it towards me, so your weight will rock on its toes. And
Mhm.
then I will thump you with the heel of the hand where it puts you right back on your heels. So I know the moment that I thump you with that heel, for that 1 second, you're mine. You can't shoot on me when your weight is back on your heels. I tell the people, try it on your own in the practice room. You can't do it. So I do things that most people don't think about. And these are little details.
Yeah.
So I'm
Very
just big
important.
about just doing those kinds of things and just controlling. But again, that philosophy of attack,
Mhm.
attack, attack. So referee's going to be going after them. I'm controlling the center of this mat. It's the centers to the back because I got you. I'm working you off to the sidelines. I'm going to attack you as I'm taking you out of bounds because now the referee's going to get after you for he's avoiding. Yeah, not really. I'm taking you out, but I'm making it look good enough to where you know you're evading the match. It's all again psychological warfare. I'm working the referee. I know what I'm doing out there. It's my piece of real estate.
I love that. And then once they're on the ground,
On the
what
ground
are
and
yeah, what are your
attack.
favorite ways to control attack?
First off, the amateur wrestling, one person will start off in what's known as a referee's position. They're on all fours. So you've got to do something to them because typically someone that's in that referee position, they're looking to do a stand up, a sit out. They're going to do something. So you have to bump them real quick so that they all want to try to be as light on their hands as possible so they can do stand up and that. So you have to thump them, and what I mean by that, you take that whatever knee is back and behind, you're gonna throw that knee and hit them right in the gluteus maximus. So it
Mhm.
puts weight up on their hands. But you do stuff like that. But I was always big about chopping the arm, chopping the leg, to where as I fold them on down, I bring them right up into my side knowing that they're all going to fight to go back to their belly. Because right there, right from a referee's position, I could drop you on the side, and just by the way I could throw a tight waist on you, I could tip you on up to where I could break it at least enough to a 45-degree that I might get a couple points for a potential near fall, is what it's called. You're going to fight to go back down to your belly because you have to. And as you fight to go back down your belly, I eventually let you win. Just simply to do a high leg over, and I will grab your wrist, simply just to feed it back the other hand, and now I start to go into a reverse half Nelson, aka called the gorilla grip or pipe wrench. And I'm then going to pull your arm up, and I'm going to suck your head on down the other direction, which is contorting the body, and I'm going to be putting you on your back. All the stuff I do is ways of trying to continue to put you on your back because I'm putting you in uncomfortable positions, but ultimately I'm also still looking for the pin. The more times I can put you on your back, I'll get you sooner or later. I just got to get you there in the first place. And again, I'm tenacious.
Mhm. Now I think that's the key, right? Building and this is I think I'm curious to see if you'll agree with me on this. It's to me, I can teach technique all day long. The one thing that you really can't teach is that tenacity, that relentlessness and the grit. You have to
Yeah,
want it.
that is difficult, and there's and you start seeing that in your class environment as to who is seeking out other opponents, who is seeking out other worthier opponents. One of the things I used to do was I would want to roll with the lightest weight class. 118 pounders. That's okay. That weight class is gone. 125 is now the lightest weight class in college, but there used to be this 118-pound weight class. And the guy that we had on our team was at the time was Billy Rosado. Rosado, he's still alive. He lives in Las Vegas here now. Like the first time I go, Billy, I go, I want to roll with you. He look at me, he goes, no way, Severn, you're too big. I go, Billy, I won't use my size. I just want to see, can I hang with you? And could I? No. He was like a spider monkey all over me to the point there's like going, Billy, I lied. And I had to crunch him a little bit, but I go, I'll be back again tomorrow. And we're going to continue this session to where when I would go back to the upper weight classes, the 177 pounders, the 190 pounders, and heavyweight, they're like going, dude, you're so fast. No, I'm not. You want to see fast? Go down to the 118-pound weight class. These guys are fast. But I put myself in different positions to where I can't use my strength. I can't use my size. Can I hang with the spider monkeys?
Hmm. Very important to build
Mm-hmm.
that diversity.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's oftentimes missing, right? Is, when people are going, either they just want to go with their friends or somebody that they know that, oh, I can get this guy,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. Most of I'm on an easy workout. I'm kind of tired. I'm on an easy workout. No, I used to rate my amateur wrestling workouts, especially my collegiate workouts, by how many shirts I would soak through. 'Cause a lot of people always wonder, why did I wear a gray T-shirt in professional wrestling? Why did I wear a gray T-shirt in at my MMA? Because that was what you got issued at your college. And I always rated my workouts, as I said, by how many shirts I was soaked through. Not just a little bit of sweat underneath the armpit. I'm talking about the thing was so soaked, you thought it was you put it in the wash machine, hasn't gone through any spin cycle or nothing yet. You pull it, it's like it's just dripping and sopping wet. I would lose on average between 8 and 12 pounds every workout. And I'm drinking at the same time. But most wrestling rooms, they're hot. And I'm sweating like a madman to where, I mean, literally, I almost got like a puddle of sweat around me because droplets are coming off me. If I'm wrestling wrong with some of the other heavyweights, there's droplets coming off of them as well. But I'm staying out there. I'm going more and more round robins because I know that they're tired and they're spent. I'm tired, but I'm hitting the wall and I'm trying to push the wall back a little bit further because each time you hit that wall and you can hit and move it, I want to move it back a little bit more so I know I can go beyond my normal.
Makes
And
sense.
that's why it's hard saying is to teach these athletes that I'm not in competition with either one of you. I'm in competition with myself.
And that's how you level up your grappling, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
mostly gentlemen. You got to be
The
in
more, the more,
competition with
the more
yourself.
people that you grapple with, that they're good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll tell you a yeah,
It's still a way of learning.
a funny story for you, Dan. And I've shared this on the show before. When I wanted to learn wrestling, so in high school, I only did one season in my 10th grade. I didn't go any further because I was a musician and I was growing my hair out. And they said, you have to keep your hair short and focus and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, nah,
Uh-huh.
long live metal. So it's just like, I preferred to do that because I was doing judo and they didn't mind the length of my hair and stuff like that. So it's just like, I just kind of let the wrestling alone for, quite a few years. And then when I was getting into jujitsu, I was just like, I know I can beat this. I need to get back into the wrestling. And so I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. And a friend of mine was wrestling at Cal State Fullerton. And he said, he was a Persian guy. He said, I know these guys that can help you, but they're a little rough and not much, they don't speak much English, but this is the place you need to go. There was like this dungeon in a Canoga Park strip mall, all blacked out. And I like to say, imagine 20 guys inside, all from the old Iranian Olympic wrestling team. They all look like the Iron Sheik
Uh-huh.
and all old men. I was in there 3-4 hours a day, and they beat the shit out of me. There was nothing I could do. And the worst part, what people don't understand, because to me, all these grappling schools now, jiu-jitsu schools, it's all pussified. The first 90 minutes was just straight conditioning. They had the bars, you're sitting there on those Iranian bars, and we had the clubs and all this. So after 90 minutes, I'm dead. Then it's like, okay, now we're going to go into these pummeling drills. And these guys are just throwing me around just from pummeling drills. And then we're doing, our next set of warm-ups and drills. So 4 hours later, I didn't know how I was going to move. My whole body was shaking. Every day would be shaking from my nervous system being destroyed, and just the amount of abuse my body took from these old men. I'm like thinking, first of all, I'm like, there's no way these old men, they took it to me, and they were going easy on me. Okay. Because I was 180 pounds at best, right? But I was just a cocky son of a bitch going, yeah, I'm kickboxing, I'm fighting, I'm doing judo, I'm doing some jujitsu, this and that, I can do it. This was like, the early 2000s. Boy, oh boy, there wasn't a day that went by for the, 2.5 years or so that I was there that they did not beat the shit out of me. 3 hours, 4 hours, and they wouldn't let me leave. Once that door was closed, and like I said, it was all blacked out. You didn't even know. There was no sign, right? So it's just black paper, like this black paper on the wall, on the windows, and it was hot. And they were all scary and mean looking. And great experience, is best experience of my life in terms of really developing me. And they said, yeah, you know what we like about you? You don't stop. It's okay that we kicked the shit out of you, but you never quit. You came back the next day. You keep coming back the next day. I'm like, well, I have to learn this. It didn't matter to me how badly I got destroyed every day by these old men, but the techniques that I learned, and that was the one thing I think that really helped me develop as I was, doing more jujitsu. And then instead of compartmentalizing, when I really was blending and then getting into catch wrestling and stuff like that, blending it all together, was the fact that, I considered myself very green. I learned the Iranian system. So getting into this Iranian mindset and how they trained and their style of wrestling had a profound influence on how I teach today and how I roll, how I grapple and stuff like that. But that brutality, like I could not teach 1/10 of that today, because nobody would come.
Because you'd lose your whole class.
Yeah. There's barely any guys that come now, but because of those little 10% that I teach.
I was literally about to say that, Brian.
Don Fry will make these comments. Don Fry makes these comments saying, today's mixed martial artists, they paint their toenails, they paint their fingernails. He goes like, he's like, what the heck has happened to our men here right now that they're painting their toenails and they're painting their fingernails? I mean, that's but that's Don Fry there for you. But he was, like I said, one of my wrestlers, between him and Rashad Evans, those are only two athletes ever referred on to the UFC. And they were both UFC Hall of Famers. But no, before I couldn't think of the gentleman that I learned my kratos from, Wade Chellis.
Wade Chellis, okay, sure.
Wade Chellis was, heck of a cradle man his entire life. But he had a submission grappling background as well. He did stuff in that area. So, Wade was a very successful competitor in several different aspects.
And very mean. I got to do a couple seminars with him. And the thing that I loved about his system, that cradling and the pinning, it works beautiful for jiu-jitsu competitions, but it's incredibly violent and incredibly mean. And, when I show stuff or when I go visit places, I don't make many friends, because I look at it like this. Hey, this is all submission grappling. If something hurts, tap. If you don't want to tap, that's on you. It's not on me. I'm going to cross-face the shit out of you. And, the cradles that I do, when I'm cradling up for a pin, I'm twisting the spine in very uncomfortable ways, that it is not appreciated, especially in the jiu-jitsu community. It's not appreciated at all. And they're saying, well, that's not fair. You shouldn't do that. That's against IBJJF rules. I don't give a shit about the IBJJF. They have no authority over me. I'll do whatever the fuck I want. If you don't like it, number one, you don't have to roll with me. But number
Yeah.
two, try pickleball. That's what I tell everybody, even when I'm doing seminars and stuff like that. I go, if you don't like the pain that we're going to do today, I highly encourage you to try pickleball or golf or badminton, because there's plenty of other things you can do. But when we are wrestling, it's going to hurt. And it only gets more painful the better you get. It doesn't get less painful. It's only going to grow. Your pain and your suffering is only going to grow because they're going to be fighting for that top tier, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. It's only going to get worse. So are you ready for it to get worse? If not, please try something else. I tell everybody the same thing.
The only reason I totally agree with everything that you said there. I happened to be at a pickleball convention this past weekend, and literally I got courtside view. I could watch. There's probably 5 or 6 different pickleball games that are taking place at all times in front of me, and I got a chance to meet some of the most premier players that, I mean, are built like basketball players. They can cover an awful lot of court, and I kind of like the fact that they're doing body shots and stuff like that with these paddles, because it's kind of I kind of like the physicality right here. And one of the I think number one male competitors is this guy that's 80 years of age, but a former NBA basketball player.
Wow.
So it was I I like the fact that, again, he's doing something physical. Uh, I used to play racquetball.
That's tough.
Before
That's
that,
fast, man.
but even before racquetball, paddleball,
Mhm.
or I should say before uh, handball, where
Handball.
basically
Mhm.
you use hand. But it was like
Yeah,
I wasn't as very good for hitting with my left hand, so literally I would use the back of my hand, clubbing it, and then clubbing it with the forehand. So I was just doing back and back and forth like that. But that's I learned. I did that again at Arizona State University at first. Between having the one different class there. So it was just fun ways of just getting other workouts, because I put on a set of plastics, some cottons, and then I go out there and sweat out 4 or 5 pounds.
that's awesome. So Dan, walk us through how people can find you, because I want to make sure people
Well, I
can
mean, I
access
always tell
you
people
and get to you.
I I just give them my email address is dan@dansevern.com. Just Dan Severn, Severn, Dan@dansevern.com, if they want to get in contact there with me. Because again, I do a lot of different things. My first love is walking out onto mat and teaching amateur wrestlers. I always tell people, there I come with a guarantee. I will make you better. You may not like my methods, but I'll make you better. So it's because I can see things. I mean, all I need is maybe 30 minutes watching you. I'll have my clipboard. I'll be making some things, because that's one of the things I do now, that I'll have some pops will said, my kid's really kind of struggling with this, that. I go, send me 3 of his matches, not 3 victories. I go, I want 3 hard fought matches. I want to see him lose at least one of these matches, maybe lose 2 tight matches and 1 victory. I said, because I want to see how he reacts to a loss,
Mhm.
and even a close loss. So it's, and I even say that I'll never remember the kid's name, but I will know what he's good at and what he's bad at better than he will know himself. But
Mhm.
that's just I just have I have an eye for that now, and there's a couple heavyweights I've met just recently within the last, say, 4 or 5 months, that they could be the next UFC heavyweight champion.
Mm.
They could be the next professional wrestling champion, even though I say it a little bit more facetiously, but they've got athletic ability.
Mhm.
When you see a 300-pound man that could do a standing backflip,
Jesus,
that's impressive.
that
That is
sure is.
impressive. So
So what do you think of real quick, because I know we got to wrap this up, but what do you think of Gable Stevenson?
he's one of those people.
Okay. That's what I was thinking. That kid's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, to see him in his one boxing match, and to see him, basically kind of take a little couple of bounding type steps over to the thing, then jump right over the ring and land. That's how many heavyweights have got a plyometrics explosive leg power like that.
I
If you
haven't
can do
seen
that
that.
on a
Yeah,
vertical, what can you do on that in a
yeah.
horizontal?
I haven't seen that explosiveness since Brock Lesnar,
Yeah, and
especially with that
there's a
that
couple
vertical
other
leap.
young men that I know that I guess, had some really close matches with Gable Stevensons that are the high schoolers. So it's kinda going I've got some people that are reaching out to me that I go, "Is it possible?" It is, but there's a lot of different factors that got to come to light. It's kinda like I'm not at the age where I want to hold anyone's hand to see them all the way through. You have to got to want it yourself. Because I always tell people, no one ever held my hand.
Mhm.
No one still doesn't hold my hand. I again, you have to have that personal type of pride in order that you want to elevate yourself, or what is your end goal? My end goals was wanting to go to college and not having an incredible financial bill hanging over my head for the next 40, 50 years of my life. But then also I've been to every state in the United States. Not easy getting to Hawaii or Alaska. No, and I've been to both of them half a dozen different times. But then to be to every country that has ever had a superior freestyle or Greco-Roman program as well. Knowing that you were both, like the first time I was interviewed by a German uh, podcast group, they're like, "Going, have you ever been to Germany?" I go, "Oh yes, I've been to both." And he goes, "What do you mean you've been to both?" I go, "Well," I
East
said,
and
"Well."
West.
The quick history lesson is your country was divided at one point in time that there was an East and West. I go, I was in West Germany, driven by bus to the Iron Curtain, aka the Berlin Wall, and
Mhm.
then I had to be debused, had to show proper paperwork and stuff like that, along with the rest of my USA wrestling type of team. And then they allowed us to cross the border and then to go into East Germany. And the difference between being on the west side and then going into the east side, it was like turning on a light switch because, in the Eastern Bloc, as I'm talking to you, I keep looking over my shoulder as to who's watching me speak to
Mhm.
you, the American, because it's like going, maybe we need to take you in and to interrogate you just a little bit.
Jesus,
Yeah, no
that's
thanks.
so
Yeah.
scary.
So it was like I said, I go back to my very first international experience being in Istanbul, Turkey, and to see, and this was actually at a U.S. military base, and because the Americans were doing such a good job against the Turks, some men of Turkish men were rushing the mats, trying to punch the American and strike the American to where the American MPs were clubbing with their batons some of the spectators, and as this chaos is taking place, I'm thinking, "There's so many people inside this building here right now," and there was no metal detectors that we walked through. So, who's got a beat on you right now?
Wow, that's
And
crazy.
and again, it's me, a kid at 18 years of age that goes over to his coach and go, "Coach, let me go out there with the heavyweight and put on a comical match that will ease the tension in the air." And he goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "Just let me go out there," 'cause I worked out with the heavyweight all the time. He had a great personality, stuff like that, and I told him, I said, "We're gonna go out there, I'm gonna make you look like a king here right now." I was doing professional wrestling before I ever did professional wrestling, and I was doing it in an in-person match, and the crowd was laughing and the whole 9 yards, and even afterwards, they're like going, "Dude, you know what you did out there?" I go, "Yeah, I did. I saved all of our bacon, didn't I? So let's just keep on going now."
Love
See,
it.
well,
Wow,
before we
that was
finish up,
wonderful.
just
Dan,
before we
this has
finish up,
been
before we
yeah.
finish up,
Go
Bob,
right.
Dan, I don't know if you want to have a talk about or just mention Australia, and what you're looking to do there. If you want to get it out, just a little spiel.
Well, I mean, it's stuff. I mean, I've been to Australia a couple times, but it's kind of like going. I'm starting to wane in my years, but I say that knowing that the goal is still to live to be at 125. Now at 67, I think all this. I could be having my midlife crisis by now, But it's kind of like going. There's certain places I've enjoyed the every trip that I've had. I think I've been to Australia at least twice, maybe 3 times. I would like to go at least one more time because there's a few other things. I know that I was there for a little bit, but then I went over and to New Zealand. And I really enjoyed that portion of being over into New Zealand as well. So I want I want my wife to enjoy some of those trips as well. Because I've always gone as Dan the competitor. Well, now it's kind of going, well, let me take a few more cushier type of roles for now to where I'm just Dan the instructor.
That's it. And so any gyms in the Oceania
Love it.
area that has a bit of an interest, reach out to Dan, reach out to Death Roll. I'll pass it on to Dan and we can see what we can organise so we can get him and his lovely wife out here for one more trip.
Be awesome. You don't sleep on this opportunity to learn from a legend and a grappling master. So I always say you can never stop learning. The minute you think you know everything, you're
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with what you're saying right there. There's, you know, you could still learn what not to do.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying to my guys today, after class, I say, look, e every time I go to a seminar or a class, I don't care if I've seen something 1,000 times, show it to me again
Mhm.
and teach me your perspective on it, and I'm gonna break it down, and I wanna learn every last detail of how you understand a particular position, a particular technique, and why it works for you.
Yeah, you mentioned before pummeling. It's one of the things that the inside position and pummeling is one of the things that I teach the best. And
And
I show
it's
people
lost. It's a lost art. It's a lost art. When I teach people pummeling and guys that are like you would call experienced high school wrestlers that come to me for, privates and stuff, they don't know how to pummel. I was like, what in God's name is going on here? You guys don't know the first thing about a proper pummel. You don't know first thing about a proper hip entry. I'm like, you guys don't know what the hell you're doing. I go, everybody's ass is 6 feet away from their bodies. The chin's on the floor. I go, I'm going to snap the shit out of all of you. And nobody knows how to get in. Nobody knows a proper underhook. It drives me nuts. It absolutely drives me nuts. And then I show them, here's a violent entry. Boom. And then they fall down. They go, what was that? I go, that's how you get a fucking entry. This is how you hit an underhook. And this is how we're going to pummel. Now get
yeah,
inside. And they're just like, well, that's a lot of work. Well, get to business, man. You got to
well,
start somewhere.
you could say you could either do the work or you could be on the winner side or you could be on the loser side.
Yeah. It just drives me absolutely nuts.
That's one thing that I don't like is that too much coddling is taking place, and not that not that I want to be mean about things, but they're just too much coddling towards like going. There's some people that they're cut out to do it, and there's some people that are not cut out to do it. There's all kinds of professions out there that will take place, but the physicality aspect has been lost big time inside the United States. That's how I look at it. But it's there's but there's still hope. Like I said,
Yeah.
there's
There's
still
always hope.
yeah.
With every generation, there's hope. It's just there has to be seeds that are planted.
They
Right.
just gotta do some little bit more scanning around, do some more homework there on who's still out there, who's still alive, and who can make a difference.
Absolutely. And with that, gentlemen, I just want to remind you of our sponsors, and we have more that are coming online. I'm just setting up the discount codes now. So just remember SpartanCans.com and Road Gears with a Z, ROADGEARZ.com. Discount code LUG on those sponsors so you can get a nice discount and support the show. And with that, we are out of here.